Hi, I'm Mel Chirico. I'm an online counsellor and I specialise in body image and disordered eating and weight stigma. And today I would like to talk about diet culture, dieting, and diet cycles. Sometimes this is known as yo-yo dieting or chronic dieting, and it affects a lot of people because a lot of people diet. I mean, maybe not all year round, but certainly, at certain times. And diet culture really preys on this. So after Christmas and towards the summer, get your summer body, blah blah blah. So it can be really hard to stop dieting or to cut down dieting, even when you realize that it's actually making you really, really miserable. I know some people just dabble with a bit of dieting every so often and it's not a big deal. And if you're not affected by it that much, then that's fine. But for a lot of people, it's really horrible, really miserable. You can feel stuck. You can just feel worse about yourself, because the thing about dieting is every time it fails, then you blame yourself, and it can actually keep reducing your self-esteem over time. So let's look at some of the influences of dieting, and then also like what we can do as well to help move away from dieting and diet culture. So influences of diet culture. I mean, I'll draw on some of my own experiences here because I think that's important to do, but I think also a lot of people do relate to some of the experiences I've had. Certainly, I relate to a lot of experiences that I hear online and what I hear clients talk about. We grow up, well, I've grown up, and other people have grown up in a culture that says that we need to be thin. And I remember this from I don't remember a time when I haven't known it. Actually, I just thought that's what I needed to do, especially as a girl. And as a woman, I was like, well, I'm never gonna have anyone love me. I'm never going to be liked. Nobody will find me attractive unless I can be thin, because we do live in a culture where there is a thin ideal. Being thin is seen as being more successful, more happy, more respected, more loved. And I mean, we also live in a world of of weight stigma, where it is harder to be in a larger body at times, and people do face biases and discrimination. But the solution to that isn't to lose weight to fit into the thin ideal. We need to be dismantling this culture around it that's put so much pressure. One of the biggest socio-cultural environmental factors leading to eating disorders is the thin ideal and diet culture. Eating disorders are way more complex than just a diet gone too far, or aiming to be thin or trying to be skinny. It's not just about that. There's a lot of complex stuff behind it. But I think if we didn't have that as well, if we weren't swimming in this sea of diet culture, there would probably be a lot less disordered eating and eating disorders. They're all like very blurred lines as well between sort of, yo-yo dieting, chronic dieting, binge eating, disordered eating. And eating disorders have diagnostic criteria, so that kind of sets them apart. But I like to think of disordered eating being a very broad range of worries and anxieties to do with food. And for people who are always caught in diet cycles, arguably this could be part of disordered eating, because it's causing a lot of stress, anxiety, upset. It's impacting people's mental health, Growing up, it really impacted my mental health that I couldn't change my body to be what I thought I was supposed to be. And it was only sort of when I got into my 20s. Well, I think it was very gradual I think for me, unlearning diet culture has been a really long-term gradual thing, which maybe sadly isn't always what people want to hear. I don't know if there's a quick solution. There's certainly practical things that you can do to help, but I think it's been more of a long-term learning journey for me. So when I was in my 20s, I think I was traveling and I got really sick a number of times. And I probably lost some weight. I've never been thin, but I probably lost a bit of weight. I was so unwell because I could barely keep any food down. And I just thought, I'm not thin. I'm definitely not healthy. I'm not feeling great. I'm just absolutely miserable. I wasn't even intentionally dieting. I was just sick because I was traveling. But it kind of made me realise that in order to be thin, I would have to be so unwell. I would have to put myself and my body through so much to try and force thinness, because it's not naturally. I'm not genetically thin. I'm not going to be thin in any way, and I don't want to be. I don't need to be. It is just, I don't need to fit into something for which other people make the rules. One of the biggest things for me was, I'm quite stubborn, so I suppose if I think there's somebody making money off me, and off me hating my body, and of body shame, then I'm not going to do that. So the more that the more angry I got about that, learning about diet culture, it actually, it just made me really angry, and just made me go, no way, I'm not funding the profit to places that thrive off making me feel bad about myself, and they don't actually care. They don't care what I look like. They don't care about my health. They don't care about any of that. The diet industry, gym industry, supplements, diet products, pills, now weight loss injections as well. Pharmaceutical companies do not care about our health at all. These are giant money-making things, and trying to medicate or trying to fix weight loss is just the biggest moneymaker, isn't it? I remember seeing a TV show called Dopesick, which is about the opioid crisis in the US, and really likens that to how selling products to medicate pain, it's just endless. It's an endless moneymaker, and the people at the top don't care about taking that pain away. They care about making money. So that has always been a big driver for me to say, no, I need to put myself and my body first, and I need to start listening to and trusting my body, because society has told me not to. It's taught me not to. The more that you diet, you lose connection with yourself. You have to ignore hunger signals, so you need to rebuild that relationship with yourself again. And the core of so much of this can be self-esteem and self-worth. It was for me. I had to find ways to build those from the inside, not on the basis of being scared about what other people thought of me, on the basis of trying to impress other people. I also had to shift the values of remember my values of what was important to me. How, things now, the work that I do, being a counsellor, writing, doing workshops, all of this feels so, it feels like hopefully it's valuable to the world. I want it to be valuable for the world. It doesn't matter what I look like as part of that, I guess, because it's very much shaped my journey to that. But, my values and what I believe in, and like what I want to be able to give and put out into the world, is so much more important. It's so much more important than what I look like or what anyone looks like. So I guess this is what people maybe talk about when they think about body acceptance or body neutrality. Neutrality being, maybe I just don't want to have to think about it. Maybe I just want to have more headspace. When I was at school, I remember thinking about my body and worrying about how my body looked took up a lot of space. I wasn't listening. I wasn't listening to teachers. I was worrying about how my body looked and how I was sitting and how I could cover up certain parts or maybe make certain parts look thinner. Diet culture, it just, in striving for the thin ideal, it keeps us preoccupied. It keeps us it keeps us anxious about our bodies. It keeps us worrying about our bodies and how we look, and continually trying to change ourselves on the basis of what other people want. It's a miserable, horrible way to live. And many people are stuck in diet cycles. Often dieting is connected to body image, or trying to lose weight, trying to make weight loss attempts. And the constant cycle of failure in that, which is not anyone's fault. Diets just don't tend to do that, but it makes everyone feel worse and worse as time goes on. So if one diet worked, everyone would probably do that diet. So if everybody was meant to be thin and everyone was happy, if thinness equaled happiness, everyone would do that diet. Everyone would be thin and then everyone would be happy. Thin people aren't happy as well. people in larger bodies are happy. Happiness has actually got nothing to do with your body size. Sometimes if you're in a much larger body, it can make people unhappy because moving through the world is difficult. That's not the problem of the person's body. That's a society that has weight stigma, weight biases, and weight discrimination. And you shouldn't have to change the person. If you're bullied for your weight, you don't have to change yourself to not get bullied. The bullies, or rather the culture needs to change, because the bullies have just learned it from somewhere. So how can we break diet cycles, and how can we actually stop dieting? If you want to, and if you're ready to, you might have recognized that actually, well, all the stuff that I've just said, that you don't want to be part of diet culture, that you don't want to keep striving to change your body, that you want to find some acceptance in yourself, but you just can't see how that would be possible. I hear that. I was there as well. I would never wear a swimming costume without having a big baggy t-shirt over the top. And now I love swimming. I go swimming all the time. I wear loads of different types of swimwear. I go swimming in anything as well, because I'm one of those like crazy cold water swimming people. It can be done. It takes time and patience and learning. I'd suggest some practical things, like maybe changing up your social media, following some people who you find positive, people in larger bodies, if that's helpful for you, people different or similar to yourself. But I suppose maybe just being mindful not to watch things or see things on social media. Limit the things on social media that tell you what to eat, how to eat, or present bodies which are unrealistic expectations. You could, this is obviously, I'm going to say this because I'm biased, but you could have counselling. The one thing that I thought is the body image issues, or something like dieting isn't enough to have counselling for. It absolutely is, because it impacts your everyday life. If you're always worrying about your body, worrying about food, worrying what you look like, worried about what the people think of you, comparing yourself to other people, it's like an everyday job. It's always in your head, isn't it? It's always there. It's so distracting. It's upsetting. It can be really worrying. All of that, absolutely. You have absolutely every right to go and seek some help for this. There are various books. I've got a resources list on my website. There's a resources, a 3-part free resources download, which is available through the First Steps website, which I made with a team there. And I've also got a load of books and videos and everything on there. Unlearning diet culture, questioning all the things that you were taught growing up. What did you just think it was normal to do? Good or bad foods? You have to finish this before you have your treat. These are, you're not allowed pudding unless you've eaten everything. You have to, there's so many rules as you're growing up, and there's been a lot of rules really around like certain food groups, and certain food groups being demonized, and we shouldn't eat this, we shouldn't eat that. So look for the things involving the word should or shouldn't or must, because those are often the rules, and you think about maybe people that you grow up with as well, and the things that you watched on TV and in films, and the kind of people that you're thinking, oh, I need to look like them, or the way that you learnt how to eat. Our relationships with food are really complex. We learn to eat from people around us, and maybe sometimes people around us were in diet culture as well, so it's not their fault, because they've probably grown up in the same culture as well. But you can be the one to change, to break down the cycle. I hear a lot of people, maybe people more like in their 40s or 50s or so, say that they went to Weight Watchers with their mum. It was probably quite an ordinary thing to do in the 80s, to take your child along with you to Weight Watchers. So it means that they've already got a diet culture ingrained while their brains were developing. And even if they don't engage in calorie counting or something similar to that now, they just know, because it's in there, because they had it from an early age. So if you think about the many years that you've had of learning diet culture, this is why it can take quite a long time for unlearning, because it's all the processing of, hang on, was that normal? Hang on, do I have to follow that rule now? Do I really want to? And I can see that some people might listen to this and go, oh yeah, but what about health? Because the thing about people who've engaged in a lot of dieting over the years will be like, well, if I just stop dieting, I will eat everything in the world. but you won't. It might tip the other way initially. When you've restricted yourself for a long time and you told yourself you're not allowed the chocolate or the biscuits or whatever, you are probably going to want quite a lot of them. And that might be part of the process initially, but there's only so much you can eat without feeling sick or without actually just getting sick of that as well. The idea is to try and take away some of that deprivation that you've had, because that's only making it worse. So the way that a diet cycle normally works is similar to like a binge eating cycle as well, is where it starts with it goes around in a cycle, but if we start with the bit where we think, right, I'm going on a diet, I am being good, I'm not going to eat these food groups, I'm going to count calories, I'm going to do whatever it is that you're doing, and it starts now and it's great, and you probably got a little bit of a, yes, it's time, this is the time, I'm going to do it. And then probably over the next few, could be hours, could be days, could be longer, there's sometimes cravings, hunger, you can just feel really miserable, you can just have loads of thoughts around food, and it starts to get really, really tricky, because that's the restriction and deprivation bit. You've restricted food, you're depriving yourself of food, and you probably got some inner toddler in there just screaming for it, because if you try and tell your inner child that it can't have something, it will want something, and then that can lead to the big failure, the big give in, the eat everything, the eat the whole pack of biscuits, or even just eat whatever it is that you said that you weren't going to eat or you weren't going to do, you end up doing that. And that failure brings all that guilt. That guilt and shame will just slap you in the face, and it's really horrible. It's a really horrible experience, and you feel like you let yourself down, and you feel really bad about yourself. And so what do? You go, I'm going to get back on track. I'm going to sort this out. Diet starts Monday. Diet starts tomorrow. And then you go back around the cycle again. And it's exhausting. And if you're going through this, I'm feeling for you. And if you've been through this in the past, you can probably relate to this. And if you've got out of it, then well done. But it's such a hard cycle to be in. So there's different ways that we can break this cycle, though. So part of it is because it's not actually necessarily what you've eaten or what you've done in that failure part. It's not a failure. I'm just using that word because that's what people probably, would describe it as. It's not actually what's been eaten or what's been done. It's the feeling afterwards. It's the guilt and shame that drives you back into that. So instead, if it was, oh, actually, that's okay. It's not a big deal. I ate this thing, blah, blah, blah. You wouldn't probably go back so hard into that cycle again. So there needs to be compassion and understanding that is brought in towards yourself. Now that's easier said than done, because with a lot of these things there is deeper rooted work to be done, because giving kindness and compassion to yourself, again I found this from my experience, is just too hard to do. And that can mean that there's sometimes deeper rooted self-worth, self-esteem, confidence issues to look at as well. So counselling can help with that as well. And, there's also like trying to reduce the restriction in the first place. There's also maybe actually you don't need to give something up. Maybe you don't need to diet. Maybe you don't need to count calories. Maybe you could just drop that altogether. I can imagine that some people are saying, well, what about health at this point? What if you've been told that you have to lose weight by a medical professional? Well, I mean, there are medical weight biases as well. So that is one thing to consider, that sometimes people in larger bodies are told to lose weight no matter what is wrong with them. And it isn't always the only advice or the best advice to give. It's kind of lazy advice, to be honest. I hear stories of this all the time, of this is weight stigma and weight biases in action. If you go with something wrong with your finger and then you get told, have you tried losing weight? So there's that to consider as well. But if there is something that you want to do for your health, then you can separate weight from that. So actually, if you want to work on your health, dieting is not going to be the way forward, because most dieters will regain the weight back. It's like 95% or something over a period of time. Also, every time, if you're in a diet cycle, then probably every time when you gain the weight back, you might actually gain more back as well. And, as we've said, diet cycles are just miserable anyway, aren't they? So, it's not good for physical or mental health, like, at all, to be engaging in these kind of practices. If you really want to do something for your health, you could focus on any other health behaviors that aren't to do with trying to lose weight. So that could be reducing stress, increasing like self-care, doing nice things for yourself, doing movement that is fun and not a punishment. There's getting better sleep. There's loads of things which are a part of health that people don't think about. Sometimes people change these things and then lose weight as a side effect, and everyone goes, "Oh, you've lost weight. Yeah, it's the weight. Losing weight is the thing that's made you healthy." No, it might not be. It might be sort of health behaviors alongside of it. Your body's usually trying to kind of keep your weight at what it thinks you should kind of be. So if you are working on your health behaviors, that might mean that as a side effect you lose weight. It might mean that you don't. Sometimes people can change things about their health. They don't lose weight, but their health might actually still improve. You're still doing good things for your health. But again, I don't think you can do any of these things unless you actually care for yourself and respect your body. I didn't want to make any good choices for myself. I didn't want to be kind to myself. I didn't know how to do that. And these like dieting and the ways that we use very punishment and shame motivated things to lose weight or to try and motivate ourselves, it's actually really harmful. Shame and punishment is not a good motivator. Instead, having respect and care for your body is more likely to help in the long run. Again, that can be looking at underlying things as well, building confidence, building self-esteem, building self-worth, knowing that you don't have to look a certain way for anybody else, and finding some more of that confidence and respect from within. So if you want to explore that more, because this is hard to do by yourself, this is what therapy is for. This is what counselling is for. I offer counselling online, so please do get in touch if that's something you'd like to do. I've also got a bunch of blogs and things on these kind of topics as well, if you'd like to read more about it, and the resources list on my website as well. Thanks so much for listening today. I think that's everything. Wow, it's been a long one, hasn't it? Thanks so much for listening. Take care. Bye-bye.